Join us on this episode for a timeline we're going to give you on the book of Revelation, going through 31 events starting this week.
We interrupt your program to issue a severe warning for an impending emergency making its way to your area. We urge you to be watchmen of the times and to be prepared with the essential knowledge and supplies for the wake of the final hour.
Welcome to the Final Hour podcast, coming to you from the original Living Word Christian Center. And it is the original Living Word Christian Center. There's a lot of Living Word Christian Centers out there, or Living Word churches. Yeah. This was the first one. This was the original. And we're out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. My name's Jim Hammond, and we're getting into the cold season up here. I was attempting to walk my dog in 30-degree weather, and it was you have to, as we were talking about, it dries out your skin very fast. Yeah. And so this episode, we're excited because we're not only going over a great tribulation timeline over the next few weeks, but we have some really good news for you that you're not going to probably see in the news, especially this first rendition. I'm sure they're not going to be talking about, especially with the elections coming up. But
I'm Lonaiah Farrell. I just don't like this part.
That's okay. All right.
That's it, guys.
Hey, my name is John Gapp. I'm happy to be here.
And as
Great,
you can, as you can see, they match.
I'm happy to be here too. So happy.
And
good.
Our producer is JD. And that does not stand for Jack Daniels. That's Jeremiah Dupree.
Good one, Jim.
So
I know that Lonaiah is super thankful that we have so many followers and so many listeners. I just want to say thank you to mirror all of Lonaiah's thankfulness.
Thanks for piggybacking off that, John.
We're so happy to be here and so glad to be able to talk about some of this, because really you don't hear this if you're just listening to what's been pumped out in the media today.
Right.
So you have to find it, you have to curate it, you have to be watching and be listening. So it's cool to be a part of it.
we're thankful for the viewers and subscribers and listeners on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Thank you so much. We're over 1,400 subscribers.
That's awesome.
I think we're just at like 8 months, so that's pretty good, being that none of us were ever on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, right?
Nope.
Not recently.
Nope.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on The Bachelor,
Okay, John.
those people that start podcasts, they have a head start, right? But for us, not
They do.
really promoting it, we thank you so much for tuning in all around the world.
Yep.
Countries all around the world. And this is from, I feel like, this is from a website called Upward News. And I don't usually read articles, but this is 2 different articles that we strung together. And it makes you realize something here, right? Pfizer is admitting it didn't know if COVID vaccines prevented transmission. So the COVID-19 vaccine narrative that led to government mandates, widespread job loss, national division, it's collapsing.
Yeah.
Last week, a Pfizer official told the European Union Parliament that its COVID-19 vaccine was never intended to prevent transmission, and that the company never tested for transmission before it was released. And why does that concern us? Because COVID-19 vaccines were sold and mandated as a way to stop transmission.
That's what they said.
Right.
And would stop the pandemic, even though transmission was a factor that manufacturers never focused on, and that was barely understood as early mandates were enacting them globally. Yeah. And so Joe Biden, Anthony Fauci claimed vaccines stopped transmission in 2021, and that it was imperative for everyone to get vaccinated, despite any of the concerns or objections and began to indicate that vaccination made little to no difference in transmission rates.
Didn't President
Studies
Biden-
were already saying that it didn't help transmission rates.
Right.
Okay.
Didn't he make it an executive order countrywide that you had to get the vaccine?
They tried, yeah.
Yes.
They tried, and it got pulled because it was
But can I tell you-
unconstitutional. But yeah, I mean, he was trying to use that as hurricane preparedness.
Yes,
in
he
2021.
was.
It's like
he just
they
did it
were
the other day with
pushing it.
Hurricane
Yeah.
Ian.
Well, and
Make sure
then
you get vaccinated,
we
people.
could see that in Minnesota as well.
Right.
With Governor Walz was also, I mean, trying to push the mandate.
But people are still getting fired from it. My sister-in-law works at North Memorial, and her one of her coworkers got denied the religious exemption. They're getting fired from their job.
Yeah, there's still pressure to get vaccinated, even though
it doesn't.
There's
do what
so many reasons to not get vaccinated.
More reasons.
Yes.
And listen, studies were already indicating that it didn't do anything for transmission rates.
Right.
But they didn't care. The media didn't care. The social media platforms censored all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the Biden administration forced millions of unvaccinated workers out of their jobs based on the false premise that vaccines prevent transmission.
Right.
And we now know they're not effective at preventing transmission, and were never intended to be. And this is from the National Library of Medicine by a doctor named Russell Blaylock. Okay. COVID-19 pandemic is one of the most manipulated infectious disease events in history, characterized by official lies and an unending stream led by government bureaucracies, medical associations, and medical boards, the media, and international agencies. We have witnessed a long list of unprecedented intrusions into medical practice, including attacks on medical experts, destruction of medical careers among doctors refusing to participate in killing their patients. Okay.
Yes.
For the first time in American history, a president, governors, mayors, hospital administrators, federal bureaucrats are determining medical treatments based not on accurate, scientifically based, or even experience-based information, but rather to force the acceptance of special forms of care and prevention, including use of respirators, ultimately a series of essentially untested messenger RNA vaccines. For the first time in history, medical treatment protocols are not being formulated based on the experience of the physicians treating the largest number of patients successfully. But they're on individuals, bureaucracies that have never treated a single patient, including Anthony Fauci, Bill Gates, the EcoHealth Alliance, the CDC, the WHO, the state public health officers, and hospital administrators, the media, TV newspapers, magazines, medical societies, state medical boards, the owners of social medias have all appointed themselves to be the sole source of information concerning this so-called pandemic. Websites have been removed. Highly credentialed and experienced clinical doctors and scientific experts in the field of infectious diseases have been demonized. Careers have been destroyed, and all dissenting information has been labeled misinformation and dangerous lies, even when sourced from top experts in the fields of virology, infectious diseases, pulmonary critical care. These blackouts of truth occur even when this information is backed by extensive scientific citations from some of the most qualified medical specialists in the world. Even individuals such as Dr. Michael Yeadon, a retired ex-chief scientist and vice president for the science division of Pfizer itself in the UK, who charged the company was making an extremely dangerous vaccine. They silenced all these people. He was ignored. He was demonized. He, along with other highly qualified scientists, have stated that no one should have taken this vaccine. Dr. Peter McCullough, one of the most cited experts in his field, who has successfully treated over 2,000 COVID patients, by using protocol for early treatment, which the so-called experts completely ignored, and has been the victim of vicious assault by those benefiting financially from the vaccines. He published his results in a peer-reviewed journals, reporting an 80% reduction in hospitalization, 75% reduction in deaths by using early treatment. Despite this, he's under a relenting series of attacks by the information controllers, none of which have treated a single patient. Neither Anthony Fauci, the CDC, the Chinese-run World Health Organization, or any medical government establishment has ever offered any early treatment other than Tylenol and hydration, and call an ambulance once you have trouble breathing. This is unprecedented in our entire medical history of medical care, as early treatment of infections is critical to saving lives and preventing severe complications. And they're trying to ruin this guy. And not only have these medical organizations and federal lapdogs not even suggested early treatment, okay, they attacked anyone who attempted to initiate such treatment with all the weapons at their disposal: loss of license, removal of hospital privileges, shaming, destruction of reputations, and even arresting people. And a great example of this outrage against freedom of speech and providing informed consent information is the recent suspension by the medical board in Maine of Dr. Merrill Nass' medical license, and the ordering of her to undergo a psychiatric evaluation for prescribing ivermectin,
which is now approved by the CDC.
Now they've approved it.
Yeah, it's on their website.
And sharing her expertise in the field.
Right.
And it's just ridiculous what they're doing to these people and how they're ruining these people. And it's all about politics. It's all about money.
Information censor, I think, is what you said for the social media. That is the best description of them. They controlled it. Like even yesterday on ABC World News Tonight, the guy was standing outside of a hospital in Maryland or something and saying that that COVID is going up again. And the reason it is because we've all laxed on our masks and our social distancing. What
a crock. I keep thinking about a lot of the media that's come out of the last couple of years. Do you guys remember high school speech class, where there's like 4 different types of speeches? You have your informative, you have your persuasive, you have your entertainment, and then the demonstrative, where you do a demonstration. I always remember in that class the persuasive, like a lot of times that was, you could watch that like through advertisement, how people would have to frame why you wanted a product or why you wanted to do a thing that wasn't necessarily true completely, but it was enough true to get you to want the product, or, you know, and if you are filtering information that you get through understanding why someone wants you to believe them, you start to understand that maybe things aren't completely true that they're saying. Right. And then you start filtering everybody's speech and going, what do you get out of this? What do you want? Because what we've been led down as a society over the last 2 years is, if you don't agree with what we're telling you, you're crazy. Right. You are stupid.
And you're dangerous.
You are dangerous.
Now they're saying you're a terrorist.
Well, yes. Right. And weren't they saying that unvaccinated are a danger to society?
And listen, the main thing here is they're telling you that you have to put something in your body.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
For it, not tested. They literally hide. I mean, you look at these young soccer players, you look at all this stuff.
Yep.
They cover that information up. But here's the bottom line. You should have a right to say what goes in your body.
Right.
No matter what.
That's the bottom line. Yeah. If you want to be vaccinated, you go ahead.
That's up to you, man.
That's your prerogative.
Yes.
We're not coming down on you. I'm just telling you, it's wrong for them to say you have to do this.
But it's wrong
with
for
your body.
them to cover up the issues that people are experiencing from the vaccine and to act like there's no side effects to it. That to me is, I've been talking to people and there are so many people who aren't even aware that there are side effects to the vaccine.
Well, and I think that's maybe one of the biggest conspiracies, and it's not even a conspiracy, but the idea that there is information that is contrary to what they're trying to put out.
Right.
That they are covering up, actively covering up or shushing, and that's the crazy part of free speech in America right now. Is it's not part of it is, you can't say everything you want without being censored,
right.
But also the other part of free speech is silencing anybody that has a dissenting opinion.
Right.
So we're gonna. Are you good?
I'm good.
Okay. We're going to go into the first spiritual part here. And I realize, okay, I'm going to do this timeline, right? But I have to, before I get into the timeline, check out Revelation 4:1. And so this is the Apostle John. After this I looked, and behold, a door was opened in heaven. The first voice which I heard was that were a trumpet talking with me, which said, "Come up. I will show you the things which must be hereafter." Many prophecy experts believe hereafter is after the church age. Many prophecy experts believe, just like you've got a trumpet in Corinthians, you've got a trumpet in Thessalonians with the rapture being called with a trumpet, right? So you've got a trumpet calling John up, saying, "Come up," right? So many prophecy experts believe this is the rapture. And if we can just back up to Revelation 1:12 and 13, this is why they think so. Another reason, I turned to see the voice that spake with me, and being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks. Right? This is Jesus. And in the midst of the candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, that's Jesus, clothed in a garment down to the foot. The Son of Man is in the midst of the 7 candlesticks here on earth with the Apostle John. Okay? Now let's look at this. What are the 7 golden candlesticks? Revelation 1:20, the mystery of the 7 stars, this is Jesus. You saw my right hand. The 7 golden candlesticks, the 7 stars are the angels or the pastors of the 7 churches.
The messengers.
The 7 candlesticks which thou saw are the 7 churches. Okay? And he was in the midst of those 7 churches on earth. Suddenly, we're in Revelation 4. Out of the throne proceed lightnings and thunderings and voices, and there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne. Okay, some call them lampstands, candlesticks, lamps of fire. Here's my point. He was just in the midst of them on earth. Now they're in the throne room of God. Revelation 4:5. Okay, they've moved to the throne room of God, i.e., but that's because the rapture happened, right? And so this is what a lot of commentators believe. And if you look at Revelation 5:1, still in the throne room, okay, this is right before the tribulation, I saw on the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within on the backside, sealed with 7 seals. And a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals?" And then no man on heaven or earth was worthy. John starts to sob, right? And then you have Revelation 5:5, one of the elders that were up there said, "Don't weep, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David. He gets to open the book and to loose the 7 seals." And at that point, heaven erupts. Heaven completely erupts, right? Into like a praise and worship service. Why?
That's cool.
Because finally it's coming, right?
Yeah.
We're heading to the end. You've got Jesus steps forward in Revelation 5:7. He took the book out of the right hand of the Father that sat on the throne.
Yeah.
Here we go. So Jesus got the 7 seals, all right? The Great Tribulation spans from Revelation chapter 6 through Revelation 19. I just took you through a run-through, right? And I want to give you a great resource as we get into this timeline. I really thought we were just going to pop through a Revelation timeline, listing all 31 events. The that we can find in the Bible in order in which things happen in Revelation. And I think it's pretty well agreed upon by prophecy experts. If you want to know,
real estate agents,
really, if you want to know about Revelation, I had someone give me this book maybe 2 months ago. They gave me one on Daniel and one on Revelation. It's a book by Damon R. Duck. He's a best-selling author,
Son
also of not Donald Duck, Damon Duck, Damon R. Duck.
Wasn't that the black duck? Wasn't that Donald Duck's brother? Wasn't his name Damon?
No.
Oh, okay.
That was Daffy. Wasn't Daffy Duck?
Yeah, Daffy Duck was definitely
the black one?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
It is totally different situation.
Okay,
one
just
is Disney
asking.
and one is Warner Brothers.
Sorry, Mr. Duck. We're not comparing your book to Donald Duck. You're a best-selling author of On the Brink. He's got another book called Easy to Understand End Time Bible Prophecy.
Dang.
This guy, it's a phenomenal book. But what Damon R. Duck does is he pulls together
DR Duck.
end times experts, Jack Van Impe, Hal Lindsey, John Hagee, Grant R. Jeffrey, numerous other people that you could definitely call experts.
Yeah.
What this book is called is Revelation, God's Word for the Biblically Inept. Okay.
Series.
Before you keep going, did just you being a guy without cable, like I am a guy without cable, did you ever used to watch like Jack Van Impe
Absolutely.
do his
He's
end
still
time
on.
stuff? Is he?
He's still on.
I learned
Scary.
a lot. Yeah, for
Boy,
sure.
he's intense.
Yeah,
he's an expert.
Very intense.
And he is an expert.
Is that his wife? That's
It's gotta be.
setting up all of his segments.
Yeah, they do. They work together.
Yeah.
And
anyway,
but look,
sorry.
Revelation, God's Word for the biblically inept, is if you don't understand Revelation, this breaks it down and makes it easy. And so I'm going to go by the timeline that he has on page 334 of this book of the Great Tribulation. What people don't agree on, I believe, is the exact timing of the trumpet judgments. This book has them happening all before the 3.5 year point. No one can really know. I tend to think the third trumpet judgment will probably be right at the 3.5 year point or a little after. But you can say the order is the order's right. All this stuff going down, these 31 things I'm going to list over the next couple of weeks, it's going down pretty much in this order. Okay? Maybe some slight adjustments. And so we've been through the book of Revelation. We've done the millennium. Yeah. We've done the great white throne judgments. We've done the bowl judgment. We've talked about the trumpet judgments, the seal judgments, all in pretty good detail.
Yeah.
The whore of Babylon. But really what I want to do is I kind of want to put this stuff in order quickly, like a 2-week rundown on this thing. And so... But before I did that, I just kind of wanted to, just kind of put things in order for you. And with that, we're going to go into our second, I lost my...
It's right there.
Okay. Second piece of news here. I don't know how much you guys saw of this. I know a lot of people have just turned off the news.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people, so I don't think that's a real good idea. But the Biden administration is asked multiple times Saudi Arabia to postpone OPEC decision by a month. And it's asking Saudi, the de facto leader of oil producer group OPEC, to delay its decision on oil output by a month. And Saudi Arabia is saying this. Notably, Biden's request would have delayed the decision until after the elections. And so
I love that Saudi Arabia is like...
Dined him out.
Like,
here's some information, America.
Yeah. And does not surprise us. Parents have had enough. A mom lit up the Encinitas Union School Board after they sent an invite to all families for a family-friendly drag show.
She was amazing, by the way, if you watched her video.
Sponsored by a San Francisco Gender Reassignment Surgery Center in a 21-plus gay bar. Okay.
Why are they involved with the school anyway? It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So dumb.
And this country,
But did you hear about the mom? So this one school, I'm not quite sure where it was, but they did a drag show at their school. So the mom came to the school board meeting dressed up like the drag show person, and they told her she was inappropriate. She's like, this is inappropriate for adults. Think of my child. My child is how I think it was a middle schooler or something. Yeah. And she's like, so if this is so inappropriate for you, how do you think my child felt with?
What did they say?
They didn't know what to say.
Yeah. How can you then have this in school?
But that lady, she was from the lady that you were just referring to. She was from a Christian coalition, and she called the school board members and everyone who was involved with that groomers. Oh, yeah. She's like, just because you put family friendly and you tag family friendly on it doesn't make you anything other than a groomer. You're a groomer. And this weekend in Tennessee,
a groomer. Explain groomer, Lonaiah.
So it's anyone who's like grooming a child for sexual. I don't even know what the word is.
Basically, to make them malleable,
Sexually
emotionally
malleable.
Yeah.
But in Tennessee this weekend, Matt Walsh is leading an amazing, at the Tennessee Capitol, a group against all of this stuff with some amazing speakers. And if you can't be in Tennessee, you can watch it.
The number of trans identifying students in the last 2 years is up 1,000%. In Maryland's largest school district. Mm-hmm. And sexually explicit books in schools are provoking a new adversary, the Muslim parents.
Yes.
And this is especially going on in Michigan. Uh-huh. You had some info, what was going on with that?
Okay, so a bunch of the Muslim parents, who's the lady who's part of the tribe or the squad, and she's in Dearborn, Michigan. She's like,
the squad, the far right wing.
Yes. But anyways,
progressive
so that's who's
squad.
That's who's over the Dearborn, Michigan area. And these Muslim parents are now standing united with Christian parents, which I think has a lot of people shocked.
Yeah.
And they're coming against the LGBTQ agenda and saying, yes, Talib. Why are you trying to indoctrinate our children? We're trying, I was listening to the person who's running for governor of Michigan, and Michigan right now is in the 2% for education from the last 2 years. They've fallen. So these parents are saying, why are you pushing this so bad? You should be just based on math, science, and history. Go back to the basics of school. Why are you in charge of sexualizing my child? That should be for me at home to teach my child morals and standards, not for you. This is coming from the head of the Muslim coalition in Michigan.
And on good news in Michigan.
Which is amazing.
Yeah. Michigan Republicans are introducing a bill defining gender transition procedures for minors as first-degree child abuse.
Yeah. Good.
It's House Bill 6454. And it introduced by Republicans is stating if you are guilty of child abuse in the first degree, if a person knowingly or intentionally consents to, obtains to, or assists with a gender transition procedure for a child. In the bill, a person is described as the parent or guardian of a child or a licensed medical professional. And good, finally, someone's fighting back.
Yeah.
Okay?
Absolutely.
If the bill were to pass, Michigan would be the second state to make it a felony for parents to consent to letting their children go through gender reassignment procedures. We're talking about children. Because it's one thing if you're an adult.
If you're an adult, you do whatever you want for your life, go for it. But why children are not yet developed even emotionally, let alone physically, to be able to make these decisions.
Yeah. No. Alabama is the only other state that put in a similar law.
Good.
So let's pray for that to pass in Michigan. Election integrity, recent court rulings in two key swing states have deemed last-minute election reforms during the 2020 election were illegal. For Wisconsin, it was the drop boxes. Okay, anyone heard about the drop boxes?
Yes.
And for Pennsylvania, it was the mail-in voting. Delaware's mail-in voting law violated the state's constitution, and illegal money from Mark Zuckerberg, the Facebook idiot, was used to illegally fund these voting changes. Okay? And so election software CEO surrenders to LA authorities. Okay? And prosecutors allege massive data breach. Gee,
you guys, he was sending the data information to China.
Right.
So China was getting election judges' information, content, all these illegal things that they weren't allowed to get. And they're saying they don't have enough time to switch it before the midterm elections. So they're still going to use the program that allows China to literally, so you vote, right?
What a joke.
They can put out anyone's information on any social media site of who you voted for, what you vote for, all that. And really fast, this I was just reading last night, in Arizona, I think it's Hobbs and Carrie Lake. They're competing against each other. Is that her name? Yes. Katie Hobbs. Okay, she's running for...
Carrie Lake is awesome.
Yes, but she's running too against Carrie Lake.
Yeah.
But the Katie Hobbs lady is in charge of the ballots. So her office oversees... She's like the election judge over that area.
Yep.
And she sent out a bunch of like wrong ballots to people.
Yep.
So Carrie Lake's trying to get her removed from that position. But come on, people.
Seems like a real conflict of interest there.
It is a conflict of interest. Remove yourself from that position. You're running.
The big question is, are they going to cheat again? Okay, so.
That is the question.
That is the question.
But a lot of polls, if you're looking, it actually shows a lot of Republicans are gaining in with the polls, which is amazing. Even in Minnesota, there's 2 big Senate offices that were Democratic, and the Republicans are now tied with them in the polls.
It makes you wonder,
it's huge in Minnesota.
Well, here's the thing, is people are afraid, just like with the Trump elections, if somebody calls you up wanting a poll,
right?
In this day and age,
right,
people don't really come with any information.
Right.
So if those polls are putting the conservatives ahead, that means, in my opinion, we're massively ahead.
Yeah.
Which,
like, it's not even going to be close.
I agree. Like the Tudor Dixon lady who's running in Michigan says Michigan Republicans, because of all the violence that's been targeted towards them, they won't even say if they're Republican. They won't even talk about it.
Right.
They won't go knock on doors, nothing, because she's like, there's violence against them.
But listen to this. Okay, this is your president in action. ICE issues smartphones for 255,000 illegal border crosses to track them. It's costing taxpayers $90 million.
That is so ridiculous.
They are giving away smartphones to the illegal aliens. Like, if you need to track them, why are you letting them in? And like, that's a great, let me tell you what couldn't they just toss that thing?
Of course they could.
They could sell
They
that
probably
thing.
do. You think they're holding on to their iPhones?
Listen,
they're probably resetting the whole factory
waste.
settings.
Like, can you believe 250,000 smartphones given to illegal aliens?
Can I say one quick thing about the border crisis right now? Do you know that Biden's top border chief is now under fire for implementing Biden's loose border control? He's getting in trouble for doing what Biden asked him to do, which is basically nothing. Turn your head the other way, and this guy's like on under fire for turning his head the other way because that's what's being asked of him.
Well, this one is going to be fun. Boston University has got a new Wuhan lab. Boston University scientists have developed a new deadlier strain of COVID in their lab.
Of course.
A wildly irresponsible experiment, and with the potential to spark a lab-created pandemic again.
But the top NIH official said they're unaware of the Boston lab's research, which is a pile of crap because that's not true.
So if you take
they
a look,
are well aware of what's happening.
Take a look at the info that Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates.
Yeah.
Obviously over the summer, the monkeypox did not get traction. No one started fearing about it. So if Klaus Schwab and Bill Gates want the panic and a new lockdown, a new reason to have a lockdown, they need something bigger than COVID, right?
Right.
Yeah. And now they have.
Now you have
obviously a 80%, possibly an 80%.
Yeah, they're testing it on lab mice right now.
Yeah.
Well.
So why are we developing this is the real question. Is what part of science is actually helping?
I don't know.
What does this do for our society to create more and more deadly viruses?
I don't know, but I'm sure Rand Paul will be all over this.
He better.
Well, he will
be.
The scientists took the original deadlier Wuhan strain of COVID,
Rand Paul,
as their base, and they added it to the spike protein from Omicron, and which makes it more contagious. And so the spike protein is what allows the virus to bind to invade human cells. And so the result was the virus killed 80% of the mice in their study. By comparison, the mice only experienced mild symptoms when exposed to Omicron. The scientists, with their findings saying it would be much less deadly in humans because the type of mice they used are more susceptible to COVID than humans. But still, this type of risky virus manipulation is how many believe COVID was originally created in China in the Wuhan lab, not from a wet market bat.
China.
Bad soup.
China.
That's how
Boston University's National Emerging Infectious Disease Lab.
What a lie! The whole market in Wuhan, that's the source, not the actual virology.
But if you look at that, all the people who came from Wuhan and went out to countries right around that time to go bring it to other countries to have this whole worldwide event is
this
interesting.
This lab gets its funding in Boston from the National Institute of Allergy.
Who else?
Who is saying that they don't know about it?
Allergy and Infectious Diseases.
Jim's just trying to get through the article.
Which is run by... He's run by Anthony Fauci.
Tony.
Okay.
And they're saying they don't know about this.
Anthony Fauci is funding this.
Of course.
Right? Do you understand?
Yes.
Okay. So, and just like people need to hit back here. All right. And the CDC's, they're just crooked. They're no better than the World Health Organization. They've got a chat site that uses your tax dollars to target teens for sex changes. And if you got witchcraft involved in there. And the CDC, as the Center for Disease Control, is pushing LGBTQ ideology, sex changes, relationships, even the occult to young people on American tax dollars. And the Q Chat Spaces online forum is featured on the CDC's LGBT Health Youth Resources page.
What a joke.
And is run in partnership with Planned Parenthood and the largest organization for LGBTQ people. It's called PFLAG. All right. The site says teens can chat with like-minded peers, find support, have fun, connect around shared interests.
Of course.
But critics warn it targets children with messages about sex, gender changes, and witchcraft, and can expose them to be groomed by predators, all the while allowing them to hide their communications from their parents. Get this. And so...
But in Florida, Governor DeSantis made it illegal for even a kid to use a different pronoun or go to the bathroom in a different restroom without alerting the parents from the school.
This site promotes hormone replacement for kids. This is your tax dollars. Usurps parental rights, exposes children to the occult, all the while encouraging kids to hide the site from their parents.
Why?
Okay? There's actually a button on the bottom of this little site that says "Get out fast," and so your mom walks in the room, you hit that button, and it goes to like a Google search.
Parents, go on your children's search history bar. That is a good way to check things. We do that periodically with our kids. They don't. Just to check. Intercessors
of America is a national prayer group, is kickstarting a campaign asking parents to contact their governmental leaders and demand they remove the site. And advocate for safety and well-being of our kids and uphold parental rights.
Yes.
And so the CDC's behavior clearly indicates their interest in indoctrinating and desensitizing America's children. And we're just not going to get off this because you can't just let this happen.
Right.
Okay? The CDC may be adding COVID shots to childhood immunization schedules. Just put it in there. When your child gets the immune shots, it's automatic.
Immunizations.
Yep. They're going to get this. They're going to get the COVID shot. Your voice is needed to stop this. There's supposed to be an expert cancer vaccine by 2030. Says COVID pioneers. Oh, can't wait for that.
COVID pioneers.
Yeah, COVID pioneers.
Interesting. What another little carrot to dangle in front of people to continue to get shots for things.
Of course.
Hey, get this. It'll cure you for cancer, but also, maybe you don't have as much autonomy anymore because it's has something else in it too.
Right.
I wouldn't trust it.
Yeah. Well, what if it's one of the other things that we've talked about? Maybe it's nanobots that are target cancer cells, but then it also leaves you with nanobots in your bloodstream.
Nanobots.
Yeah,
this is where we are.
That's AI. That's
they can give you a pill and put nanobots in you.
Yeah, I mean that's
why you just don't take anything.
That's what the WEF. They're saying we can implant things in your body, and you don't even know about it.
And can I tell you,
put in vitamins.
Speaking of this vaccine schedule, the schools, they're going to put pressure on you to get it done. Like my niece just got a letter from her school that said she's behind on her immunizations and she can't come to school on Monday unless she's up to date on her immunizations.
Yep.
They're just going to put pressure on you. You're going to panic and you're going to do it. And my sister texted it to our group chat and I texted her privately. I'm like, you don't have to do it. Yeah. There's a way around it. You can go to a notary public and get it stamped and say you don't do vaccines anymore. It's okay.
Yeah.
So just remember, you have options.
You are your best
But this
advocate.
is a way they're going to control you is, oh my gosh, you have to do this right now.
Yeah.
You don't.
Corrupt federal government trading between 2016 and 2021. Thousands of our elected federal officials and their family members traded stock in companies directly affected by their agencies.
According to
an investigation by the Wall Street Journal. Okay. All right, so
Jim feels like he's gotten interrupted a lot today. But I was listening to a podcast and it said 90% of feds are Democrats. Okay, 90%.
Yeah. But he's talking about elected officials.
Not
they
feds,
were tracking
feds.
They were tracking congressional people.
Okay, well, yeah, look
and
at
it's
Nancy
left,
Pelosi.
It's left,
yeah, it was. I want to be like, hey,
these are
left
elected
and
officials.
right. And the crazy thing is their success rate as far as how much, whether they win or lose on those investments is incredibly high, really close to 100%.
If you look at people's income before they came into office and then after, it's pretty shocking. I've done a few little dives into that world.
Oh yeah, we reported on all this.
Yes, we did, but
on Nancy Pelosi and her husband and
Nancy P.
the whole China connection and it's like
Taiwan.
You guys, if you find
Taiwan.
that Lonaiah is a lot more
lively,
animated today, write in and let us know if she's more than normal.
Hey, I just have to say, somebody told Pastor Jim the other day in the hall that he thought I was funny. I appreciate that. Yeah. Humor is big.
Thank you to Carol Howe.
Yes, thank you, Carol.
Someone told me yesterday in the church that you interrupt people too much.
John, that's a lie.
It's not a lie.
All right, I'll stop interrupting.
It's okay.
I interrupt too. I also interrupt. I admit it.
Listen.
I'm sorry.
I won't say anything else.
This is what happens when you have a woman on the team.
Listen. The Lord
I'm
keeps telling
That's a
John
joke. That's
right
a joke.
Now.
Just understand that was a joke.
Yeah.
I enjoy the company of the fair sex as well. So.
I was cut off one of these times. I was saying that's why you just don't take anything. I wasn't saying don't take, and then I wasn't saying don't take anything. What I was saying was you better know what's in your taking. Okay?
Yes.
You don't just take anything that someone gives you. That's what I'm saying.
Applies to a lot of situations.
Because those little things could be in any pill, right? And that stuff's coming, And so, back to the second part of the teaching here. Revelation 1, you have Jesus saying, hey, John, write this book for me. He's explaining who he is. He's like, John, write these 7 letters to these 7 churches or the pastors or it's disputed or the angels that look after these 7 churches. So in Revelations chapters 2 and 3, you've got these letters to the churches. which is for the body of Christ today, which interestingly enough are saying don't compromise, all right? You're lukewarm. You need to get back to the way you used to be when you first, when you were basically on fire.
Yeah.
There's so many of these letters. And most theologians believe these letters were for the church today, okay? It's ridiculous if you don't believe it isn't, because, gee, what a coincidence. In Revelation 4 and 5, this whole throne room thing, really what it's all about is Jesus opening the 7 seals after the warnings to the churches.
Yep.
The church is never mentioned again.
Yeah.
The church is never mentioned in Revelation chapters 6 through 19 during the tribulation. Don't you think if the church was mentioned in the tribulation, if we were here during the tribulation, that we would have some type of instruction? Okay? And so the Father on the throne hands the 7 seals to Jesus. And here we go. Revelation 6. So begins the timeline. I'm sorry it took me so long to get here. I'm not a scholar by any means. But I read what all these guys that have spent their lives studying Revelation, Daniel, the end times, and I just try to keep a balanced perspective, because a lot of people believe a lot of different ways. I try to keep it basic. And so, Revelation 6:1 is Jesus opening the first seal. Okay? This is right out of the throne room, chapters 4 and 5. The church is suddenly in heaven. Remember the lampstands up there that had gone from heaven
Jesus
or earth
is
to heaven?
In the midst of it.
Jesus takes the seals from the Father. Heaven erupts. Yes, we're finally getting to the end, right? Then we go into Revelation 6, 2. You have the Antichrist coming on the scene, is the first seal. Most scholars believe he will immediately have the false prophet with him, all right? The second seal judgment is a spirit being released unto the earth. And you can find all this in Revelation 6. This spirit is given power to take peace from the earth. So there's a couple of opinions on this. Either war breaks out everywhere. I tend to believe that this is just a spirit of murder that is ramped up, that's already here, in a sense, even more so than it already is. It's just being cut loose. Remember, we believe the Antichrist is first going to come as a man of peace. The world is just looking for somebody to solve the environmental, economical problems, the poverty issues, and you would have had millions have disappeared in the rapture, right? And so as soon as his peace program seems to get off the ground, you have the second seal breaking. Yet some experts believe that because the rider is on a red horse, in the second seal, it has to do with communism. See, notice, like we've done detailed episodes on all these seals, but I've got a little bit more information now, okay? And so I'm doing a quick run through. So if you ever want to see, okay, let's look at this, 31 events, boom, 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 right? We can get it all in a couple of episodes. What's the order? Okay, because we haven't exactly done everything in order.
Right.
Except for the seals and the judgments. While a lot of people think that there's just an automatic war, this second seal, honestly, I think it's straight up murder. People just start going, like what do we see now? Yeah, you see that guy on court TV defending himself?
The Christmas
through
parade.
the Christmas parade?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like he's really defending himself, like he's got something to defend.
And he's cross-examining the witnesses. Can you imagine?
It's just people driving through parades. What did he kill? How many? This will be unleashed. Like, I think when this spirit is released, you're going to see 6 or 7 of these events a day, possibly 1 per each state.
It's crazy.
It's going to be out of control. It won't even be able to be reported.
Can I say something about that guy? The week before that, or 2 weeks or something before that guy was let out of jail, he was let out on no bail from a George Soros public defender. He ran over his ex-girlfriend, hit her with a car at a gas station. And then he went to jail, and then he got out on no bond, and then he went and...
He had paid $1,000.
Oh, yes, but something like nothing
for running over his girlfriend. and then ran over the parade.
But pay attention to that, because they're trying to do that in Minnesota.
Right.
Ellison is trying to do a no bail system. And if you research I think it's called like Minnesota Freedom Act or Minnesota Freedom Protection something, if you do a deep dive into it and you just keep clicking, it all goes back to the BLM riots and celebrities giving millions of dollars. They're using that money to bail out these hard criminals. I looked on the Twitter of these criminals and what they did. They let them out, and within days they killed people.
Right.
And so we're talking about after the rapture, there's going to be panic. And there is definitely a sense of lawlessness. The third seal, you have this black horse with its rider holding a pair of scales. And we talked about this in detail. You can go back to these episodes, and so, but it's not just symbolizing famine, okay? But it symbolizes economic disaster. Yeah. It says a quart of wheat is equivalent to a day's wages. Just to buy a quart of wheat, okay? They can't survive on that, so they have to buy the barley, because it's cheaper food. This is all in Revelation 6. Normally you feed barley to animals, okay? 3 quarts of barley is going to cost 3 days' wage. There's no money for clothes. There's no money for automobiles. There's no money to heat the homes. So, this is pretty quickly after the rapture. And quoting Jack Van Impe, major end times minister, said, why isn't America during the tribulation playing any kind of significant role for any of this, right?
Always wonder.
He says America will be so severely weakened and neutralized. And really, we can just point at our government. Look at the inflation, 33%. I believe they're trying to actively sink the farmers. They're buying out farmers. Bill Gates in China are the biggest owners of farmland in America. They're making it very hard for farmers to operate, i.e., grain shipments on the railroads. We've talked about all this. We have to look at the fact that the national debt, with its compounding interest charges, could also send us into the tank when it rises so high that no matter how much they tax the American people, it won't be enough to tackle the debt. Right. A nation cannot borrow forever and ever. At some point, we're going to hit the wall. Yep. Okay? We're going to hit the wall. And all these things, they're going to come a calling, all right? They're going to come a calling when these seals are open. In a sense, our prayers, right? It's very clear in the Bible, or restraining these things, okay? But we're gone now. We are gone, okay? And these things hit, and they hit really fast. Look at Lonaiah's face. She's like, it's okay, Lonaiah.
I don't have anything to say.
You're really funny.
I know.
Okay. All right. So the third news here. Jimmy Evans here. Israel's energy agreement.
Oh.
Interesting.
And so, listen, Israel and Lebanon reached historic gas field agreement. We told you that they had run into natural gas discovery. But this is even expands what they have. The once warring nations of Israel and Lebanon reached this agreement that these offshore oil and gas fields in the eastern Mediterranean. Yeah. It's a 332 square mile oil and gas fields located beneath Israeli and Lebanese waters have been under dispute for years. Well, now they have agreed. It's a major breakthrough in relations between the two nations. And so Israel's already extracting natural gas. Yep. But this doubles down on what they have that's made them really, really rich. Yeah. And it puts Israel further into Russia's crosshairs, right? If Israel becomes a trusted supplier of energy to Europe and a major economic competitor of Russia, this is Putin's incentive to attack.
Right.
And I believe it's a recipe for a future invasion. Yeah. Like the Gog-Magog war, Ezekiel 38, though right now Putin seems to have his hand full in the Ukraine. But listen, it's smoke and mirrors. I'm just telling you, I believe the Russian troops are building in Syria He's got 2 bases, all right? And it's one of the reasons I believe he's got what he wants in Ukraine. Honestly, I really do. He's got what he wants. And I think we are going to find out that suddenly we're going to look up and you're going to see 100,000 Russian troops sitting in Syria. Watch, mark my words, okay? What podcast number is this?
36?
Yeah,
this is 36.
Let's make sure we go back to that because I believe that's happening even now. You know, you've got famine.
We're just going to have a Jim I Told You So episode where we just do dates and all Jim's I Told You So's.
We've got this famine in Africa. Millions of East Africans are starving, have been displaced by the worst drought to hit the area in the last 40 years, okay? Leading to famine and food shortages. In fact, the combination of the drought with the current global environment has resulted in Africa's worst. They have a food shortage. That's the worst food shortage in the last 80 years, okay? Famine. Nigeria floods kill hundreds, displace over 1 million. Okay, the country is experiencing the worst floods in years, damaging homes, infrastructure, vast sections of farmland. Nigeria is suffering its worst flooding in a decade. With vast areas of farmland infrastructure, 200,000 homes are partly or wholly destroyed. 603 people have died. More than 2,400 other people injured. 1.4 million people have been displaced.
Wow.
Okay?
Sad.
So floods, famine, floods, mega fire in New Mexico that displaced thousands of people, set off a drinking water crisis. The latest chapter in the catastrophe created by the federal government when the Forest Service employees lost control of 2 prescribed burns setting this spring. And so what did we just talk about? We talked about poisoning of water. We talked about famine. We talked about flooding. I think you had something to add to this, John.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. There's in the United States, there's 3 tectonic plates, or not necessarily tectonic plates, but fault lines that are especially involved in the west part of the United States. One of them is the North American Craton. And that's like the major one that's we're in the Midwest. And then, we know about the San Andreas Fault there in California. And then there's another one that kind of is like a diamond between them. But there are they're not active, but there are volcanoes along those fault lines that are having, there's earthquakes. But the interesting thing is the news will not report the fact that those volcanoes have fires erupting
crazy
around them. And it's the fires caused by magma flow and magma movement underneath the ground. So the ground in certain areas is hot enough that it'll start fires, but they're just calling it. I
haven't heard a thing.
Yeah, they're not letting it. In fact, in California, Mount Shasta, it has fires, or it has cameras pointed at it. And as soon as people started saying, I think that's from volcanic activity, they turned the cameras off.
Crazy.
And then they put them back on a few hours later, but they pointed them in a different direction. And then there's another volcano just south of Mount St. Helens. It's I don't remember the name of it, but it's having the same thing. It's having fires, but they are not letting it be reported as fires connected to the volcano stuff. So there's I've been watching this guy. His name is Dutch Since. That's his YouTube handle, SIN. So Dutch DUTCHSINSE, and he weekly reports on different earthquake and volcanic activity. And so he's saying I'm tracking this here, but the news will not report the fact that it looks like there's going to be at least a 5 to 5.5 earthquake and possibly clusters of them in the western United States, and on the other side, on the Pacific Rim, on the other side of the Pacific Ocean, it kind of echoes back and forth.
We're sitting right here on. Listen, one of those major fault lines could run a 9. If it ran a 9 earthquake on a scale of 9, that would take the United States in essence out.
Right.
If it was big enough. Yep. Like, we're wondering, why isn't the U.S. involved? Yeah. Once the Bible gets into this stuff, even in Ezekiel 38, which scholars believe, about half believe is before the rapture and about half believe is following the rapture. But, all this stuff we're talking about, check this out. Jesus was seated on the Mount of Olives. The disciples come to him privately. This is Matthew 24:3. And the Amplified says, tell us, when will all this take place? What will be the sign of your coming and of the end? Okay? So what's the sign of the end? They're asking for a sign of the end, i.e. a warning, a sign. What is it? It gives you a sign. When you see a sign, it tells you something's coming, correct? And Matthew 3 verses later, Matthew 24:6, when you hear of wars, rumors of wars, see that you're not frightened or troubled, for this must take place, but the end is not yet. Nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom. There will be famines, there will be earthquakes, and place after place. And this is what 4 things we've talked about. Yeah. And this thing is ramped up. That's why you got sites. Right. This guy that John spoke about. Yeah. He's telling you how much more how prevalent these earthquakes are, which is in a sense what Jesus is saying, in place after place. Famines and earthquakes in place after place. All this is the beginning of the early pains, okay, of the birth pangs, of the intolerable anguish, all right? So we're coming to the beginning. And, this is out of Bloomberg Business. Biden's warning prices will rise if Republicans win the midterm elections.
Okay.
Come on, man.
He states this because of his plan. The U.S. is in a stronger position than any major economy to take on this challenge.
Crazy. That's
and so
interesting messaging.
Interesting.
It's at a 40-year high inflation, and he says Republicans would seek to repeal the Inflation Reduction Act, which is so he's reduced.
Not about reducing.
Inflation. I'll tell you what's truly shocking is how little Biden and his administration admit their failures, i.e. inflation, the open border, the rising crime, and more all happened on their watch. Yeah. But if you ask them, and I'm just sick of seeing it on the news every day, the country's doing great.
He said that.
CNN's going to tell you that.
Well, he didn't lick in his ice cream cone.
Yeah. Well, no, it came during a conversation. It was in Oregon at Baskin Robbins. The president was asked if he had to worry about the strength of the U.S. dollar because of inflation. And he's got a chocolate chip ice cream cone. And he says, I'm not concerned about the strength of the dollar. I'm concerned about the rest of the world. He says, our economy is strong as, excuse my French, I'm just reading the article, is strong as hell. That's what he said. Okay? Biden's comment about the economy comes a day after he hovered closely behind a teenage girl and instructed her to not seriously date until she turned 30. All right?
Yes. So weird. He's weird.
Imagine. Now, a very important thing I told my daughters.
Charade. It's such a charade.
And granddaughters. No serious guys until you're 30, Biden said to the unknown young woman following a speech in Irvine Valley College in California. Okay, she responded. I'll just keep that in mind, she added as Biden hovered just inches from her face. A video exchange was posted on Twitter. by reporter Kaylin Almeida, who claimed the members of the Secret Service tried to prevent him from filming it.
They pull him away, and they tell the guy who's recording, like, shut your phone off.
Just think if
what a charade.
I just think if the last president, look at the difference.
Okay, that's not the first time he's done something creepy to a child.
It's a regular thing. Occasion.
They hide it. You're not going to see that.
Yeah. They say no.
On CNN,
occurrence,
MSNBC, ABC News. You're not going to see it. Okay,
no.
And so, we're looking at the third seal. The third seal was economic collapse, right, and famine, and the fourth seal is a pale horse that kills 1/4 of the earth, which that's 2 billion people, 1/4 of the earth right now, approximately through death, hunger, and with the beasts of the earth. And we're revisiting some of these things because unless you're looking for it, you're just not going to see these things coming. But there's more and more and more animal attacks. I mean, what about the pit bulls?
Oh, that just attacked those poor kids in Tennessee.
Hadn't they had these pit bulls for years?
For 8 years, and they had never done anything, and they just... But I was telling Jim, because our dog ran away the other day chasing a bunny.
What?
And it took us, it took us 20 minutes to get her. And me and my daughter are chasing her. We live by 12 acres of woods, and we're chasing her in the woods. And my daughter picks up our dog, and like the look on her face is just, and she bites. She doesn't break her hand. She just bites her hand because she's mad, but she's on adrenaline. And I said, I can see where animals go crazy, and something just kicks in and they take over, and it's just...
Listen,
that's your pet, and it's...
You have to plead the blood of Jesus in the name of Jesus over your animals.
For sure.
Yeah.
Every day. These 2 pit bulls, and they really severely wounded the mother.
Yeah, she laid on her kids.
This family had these pit bulls for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing.
No.
And this is demonic activity.
Do you think that in that verse 8, the pale horse... In the Amplified, it says it's a pale horse, but it's also black and blue as if made by bruising.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, this is why we're revisiting these things. Yeah. We're trying to be quicker and give you a little bit, and we want at the same time say, okay, here is the order, because we haven't exactly done everything in perfect order. But, you're talking about 500,000 people.
Right.
Dying from animal attacks in the tribulation from this seal. The fourth seal kills 2 billion people. It says through hunger, what it calls death, and the beast of the earth. Because you could even go you could even go more than 500 million people. Yeah. You could say 750 million people. Honestly, 700 million people. This is the fifth seal. And it's interesting because many prophecy experts believe this is before the mark of the beast. You have many believers being killed in the fifth seal. And I'm telling you, this is going to be a strong push after the Christians are gone, immediately in the rapture. Think about it. There's no one withholding any evil.
Right.
And anyone that has anything to do with God, right? Mm-hmm. And you say, gee, why would anyone have anything to do with God right after the rapture? Well, I can tell you, because there is going to be a lot of people, even though the world is trying to explain it away with alien abduction or whatever reason, they're going to make up an immediate stand. People are going to make an immediate stand and say, this was the rapture.
Yeah.
Or immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to go, hey, I should have known.
They tried to tell me.
You're right.
Right.
And they're going to die, and they're going to die quick. And you got a spirit of murder. Mm-hmm. All right. It's not just going to be, it's going to be lawless, right? In a sense. And in a way, the Antichrist kind of gets in with this stuff.
Yep.
So, and then we have the sixth seal of the tribulation timeline is a great earthquake that the sun turns black, the moon turns red. The Bible says stars of heaven hit the earth, which is impossible. Every single mountain and island are moved out of their places from this earthquake.
Which really explains what happens with a massive earthquake and volcano.
Yeah.
With all the ash and everything, if it's a big cloud over the earth, you're not going to be able to see the sun. And if you can see the moon at earth, it's going to be clouded like it's red or dusty. And then it will be a big old mess.
But they're going to probably say that is, remember, Bill Gates is trying to create something that blocks out the sunlight for climate control. So they'll just, use his as a reason as why that's happening.
All I'm saying
for control.
Is glitter.
Look, one
think about glitter.
Massive earthquake.
I'm serious.
On this fault.
Talk about it.
Where Minneapolis is sitting, that goes straight down the middle of the United States. Mm-hmm. If it was a 9 or a 10, right? And then you get a bunch of volcanic ash on top of that. Yeah. Okay? Mm-hmm. It could take the U.S. out of commission. Yeah. Right? That's all I'm saying. And so this is why you want to have your authority of the believer. You want to exercise that. And even because if we go into a time like that, you're going to need the power of God. Yep. Yeah. 72 days of food storage, probably isn't going to get it done. And we don't know. And honestly, Jesus said we would be buying. And I go back to this, what Jesus said. You're going to be buying and selling. People are going to be marrying. We're going to be building and planting. Right. That's why I just don't think before the rapture it's going to be that bad. All right? Because of the words of Jesus. So listen, you have this massive earthquake that shakes the world. It says the kings of the earth, all the great men hide themselves. And this book is calling the timeline here. It's saying that the Antichrist signs his covenant with Israel. Yeah. It says the 144,000 Jews are sealed. Okay. I just ran across this last night in my little Bible pod. And so I haven't even studied that yet. And we're going to talk about the meaning of that next week. It also says the 2 witnesses start to come into play.
Yeah. I love them.
Who believe the protection, who we believe protect the tribulation temple. They preach out of the temple. These are the 2 of the most interesting characters out of the New Testament, in my opinion. And we're going to talk about that next week. Kicking off next week, we're going to do a fast push through this tribulation timeline. I know it took me a while to get going. I'll add that I have recently, for the first time, on that last seal, the 6th seal, with the earthquake, there's a large number of prophecy experts that believe this seal includes nuclear war. Yeah, okay? Right. And the reason they say is because the phrase, the stars in the sky fall to the earth. That doesn't make any sense because most stars are bigger than the earth. No star could fall to the earth like figs drop from a fig tree without completely destroying the planet. The Greek words for stars is translated meteor. Okay? So it could be a meteor shower.
Could be satellites dropping out of the sky.
Yeah, like Star Wars, the people shooting down satellites.
For whatever, yeah.
But the 6th seal could also mean a missile attack because if you look at videos from the Persian Gulf War that were shot at night, all those cruise missiles and smart bombs, you could see looked like stars falling by the thousands. Right. And you could see how 2,000 years ago, the Apostle John, thinking it's falling stars when he sees it. So whatever it is, stars, missiles, meteors, they're going to fall to the earth. Yeah. The Bible says it's like overripe figs dropping from a fig tree in a mighty wind. So it's a lot of them. Yeah. That comes with an earthquake on the 6th seal. The sun dark, the moon red. Yeah. Wow. We won't be here.
I've heard a prophet. I don't know them, so I can't corroborate them. But there's some people that have prophecies about nukes coming from the other side of the world to the United States, and like he was seeing specific places where it was falling. But same kind of thing.
Right, and remember, maybe I come back with that scripture where we are of restraint. Yeah, your prayers mean something.
Right.
Okay. I mean, the Bible tells you in the New Testament, pray for your leaders. Not because you love your leaders. Maybe I come with that one too. Will you remind me?
Yes, I'll remind you.
To come with the fact that we are restrained.
Okay. Send myself an email right now.
Pray for your leaders. Okay. Why? If you want to be at peace, you have to pray for your leaders. Mm-hmm. I pray for Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Governor Walz every day. Okay? And it's not like I spend an hour doing it, but even just think if everyone did it for 2 minutes. You could say, how could that affect a heathen? Yes, they have their own choices. They have their own free will, but you do have the power to push back supernatural forces that are speaking to them Okay? It's not witchcraft. It's not making them do something.
Nope.
It's not in their own will, right? But you do have the power to push back spirits that have been assigned to them.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
And so you can do that. You pray for the Minnesota State Legislature. I pray every day, and I don't list the names, but you can pray for groups. You pray for the U.S. the Minnesota the U.S. House of Representatives.
Yep.
You pray for the U.S. Senate every day.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mention them. That's Paul said, I do not cease to pray for you.
Yeah.
I make mention of you in my prayers. He's talking to the Ephesians, okay? He just mentioned them. Pray for the Ephesian church.
Right.
You have the power to do that. So
Awesome.
thanks for hanging in there with us. We want to thank you guys all again, and I just appreciate you guys.
Yes.
You know, it's okay. You can interrupt me anytime you want. Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
Either one of you. Honestly, you can.
I usually raise my hand.
You do, but
Sometimes I don't.
sometimes, yeah, it's okay.
But one other thing, because we're talking about praying for our leaders, and I know midterm elections are coming,
Yep.
and I've talked to a few people, and they're like, my vote doesn't matter, and they just kind of say, I'm not going to vote. But
Yeah.
people have won by 3,000 votes,
Yep.
8,000 votes.
Yep.
so every vote matters. So you do,
Absolutely.
it is important to vote in
They've
the
won by
midterm
less
elections.
than that.
Yeah.
I know, I'm just saying those
They've won
ones
by
I've
hundreds
recently.
of votes.
Yep.
Right.
Okay.
Yes, they have.
And
The guy who won our city council won by 123 votes. They had to hand count the ballots.
so,
So it does matter.
please vote.
Yes.
Please vote.
They say every person should talk to 10 people about voting.
Ooh.
Yes.
know.
You
Interesting.
have to
know.
vote. It does make a difference.
Yep.
It does make a difference. This is your only voice here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay? So thank you so much for tuning in to the Final Hour podcast. Thank you so much, Lonaiah. I appreciate you. She comes up with a lot of this news.
Yeah.
She's a digger. She's an investigator.
She's a digger.
Thank you, John Gapp, so much. And thank you, JD.
Yes,
Jeremiah
JD.
Dupree. We appreciate you guys. God bless you. We'll see you next week.